It's time for Tuesday morning's Paper Talk, where we'll be taking a look through the key talking points from today's sports pages.
We are delighted to be joined this morning. It's a debut for broadcaster Lee Davey. Very good morning to you, Lee. Great to have you with us on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Right, I think we're going to get straight into it. And let's start with Manchester United. Erik ten Hag's comments on Cristiano Ronaldo and also Harry Maguire dominating the back pages today.
That includes the Sun, who go with the headline, "You're the Ron that I want." OK, Lee, right, so straight away, huge name to get you kicked off with here. And Ronaldo, a lot of talk about him maybe wanting to leave and such, like Manchester United. Very, very clear, saying he's not for sale. What do you think will happen in the end? Do you expect him to stay?
I do. I think that there's a huge opportunity for Manchester United to, really push on this season. And I think having Cristiano Ronaldo is really key to that. Look, we know that there's some kind of issue there at the moment. We're not sure where Ronaldo's head's at. He's said very, very little over the course of the summer. And obviously he's not back in pre-season training as of yet, which is a problem in itself. United have started pre-season extremely well, and I think that getting Ronaldo back on board, back into the fold will be huge for United going forwards. It's anybody's guess how this is going to play out. I think that the most disappointing thing is this has really come to light in the last 2 to 3 weeks. And if Ronaldo didn't want to stay at United, it would have been a lot better for player and club if he'd have, made these feelings clear, certainly towards the end of the season. But yeah, it's a really difficult situation and a new era for United where, the slate going to be wiped clean. But unfortunately, there's still some issues here, hanging over the club.
Yeah, and also this article, Lee, talks about Harry Maguire and the fact that he's keeping Maguire as captain to rebuild his confidence. Is it right for him to back Maguire so strongly, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, again, one of the things that I've read recently, I know that the jury's massively out on Harry Maguire. There's some people that are very pro Maguire. There's some people that he very much splits opinion. But I think it's a huge boost for Maguire himself to have this new manager come in. And I would have thought that, he would have been fearing himself, especially with his form towards the end of the last season, which dipped below the levels that, we know Maguire can be at. But I think that's a huge boost for Maguire himself to have, Ten Hag come in and say, you're my man, you're my captain, I'm going to put my faith into you, you're going to lead this team. I think that's huge for him. And, hopefully for United, and hopefully for Maguire and for England, that Maguire will really push on next season and, and certainly get back to some of his best form, the kind of form we see him in the World Cup in 2018.
And in general, what have you made of Erik ten Hag since he's come in?
He gives off this very no-nonsense persona. I like him. I like his style. We've seen those images last week of him, punishing, almost, I put that in inverted commas, almost punishing the players, giving them press-ups to do when they conceded goals. He's definitely got a different style about him. It looks like the players have really bought into him so far. I mean, if we're judging by the pre-season results and performances, United seem to have turned a corner. Yes, it's early days, of course, and we can't get carried away. And I think we'll see over the first few months of the season just how his impact has really, been taken on at Manchester United. But so far, I like it. I like what he's done. I think he's, you look at people like Marcus Rashford and you look at people like Anthony Martial in the first couple of pre-season friendlies. They look like completely different players. They look like new signings. And I think that could be key under him.
Right, let's go on to The Guardian then. They carry a column from the former England defender Anita Asante.
Yeah, in this column, Asante is looking at the problems associated with a lack of diversity with Sarina Wiegman's England team. This is something that has come up a little bit in the tournament, highlighting how only 3 of the 23 in the squad are black and the damage that could have on inspiring the next generation. Lee, she says in this column that budding lionesses need role models to whom they can relate. How important is it for young girls and boys to see people on the screen that look like them in roles, letting them know that they can achieve that as well?
It's huge, Bella, but it's also huge in all industries, all walks of life. But certainly, staying on topic of football, I think it's massively important because there's so much untapped talent in different areas, especially in diverse areas, and they need to be tapped into. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem that that's the case right now. I think she also touches in the piece that some of the London clubs who were a lot more diverse 10 years ago don't seem to be now, and for whatever reason, whether it's a scouting issue, or maybe some reform needs to happen in terms of scouting, but it's more for me about some of the amazing talent that's not being tapped into, that's not being identified, and obviously that's visible across the England team.
Yeah, hopefully this tournament can increase that with the visibility, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, how impressed have you been with the reaction to how well England are doing at these Euros and the excitement ahead of tomorrow's game?
It is really exciting, isn't it? And obviously the first win, the 1-0 win, was got everybody amped up and ready to go. But then obviously the huge win over Norway, and there was absolute euphoria around it. So I think now what we've got a situation where so many people are getting involved in it, people that may not have watched women's football before, and now aware of it, starting to get on board with it, and hopefully it really unites the country even more. We can get more people watching this, because I think this England team, obviously being host nation, is great, but also they've got a real team that we can all get behind. So got some really, really promising players, and it's been really enjoyable to watch. So there's a huge game obviously coming up soon in the knockouts, and we're getting to the real business area, the business part of the tournament. And as we know, it goes straight into the quarterfinals. So we're literally a couple of games, a couple of wins away from a final, and where football could finally come home.
I knew it. I knew you were going to get that in there, Lee.
Sorry about that one.
Never apologise for that. Never apologise for that. Let's move on to the Daily Mirror. They look at Newcastle's preparations for the new season. Yeah,
so they're focusing on Eddie Howe's team building efforts and team building efforts, and also the work ethic that he is trying to grow within this squad. It's been a fairly quiet transfer summer for Newcastle so far. Are you surprised?
No, I'm not. I think it's a good thing. I think Newcastle are building smartly. I think Newcastle are doing things in the right way. I think there's been no huge marquee signing, and I think maybe people expected that with the club and their takeover, and these huge funds that are available to the club. But what we've got here is Newcastle being smart with it. I think Newcastle probably would have looked at the likes of Manchester City, who were taken over 2008, I believe, and within a month or 2 months had gone out and signed a huge marquee signing in Robinho, which didn't overly work out fantastically well for the club, and they went back to basics. You've got again a team like Paris Saint-Germain, who again went for a takeover in the early 2010s, and again they've gone in and they've bought Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Thiago Silva, and spent huge amounts of money very early on. I think Newcastle know where they are, because they were coming from a place where they're in the bottom three, and they're slowly going to build, and it's going to be done sequentially. And I think Newcastle have been smart with this, and they are improving areas in which they feel they need to improve. No huge marquee signings. I think that will come. I think that will come in a year's time, 2 years' time. But for now, they're buying smart, and I think Eddie Howe is certainly managing that side of things really, really well.
So if they're going to build a little bit slower than Manchester City did, for example, what should their expectations be this season?
I think Newcastle should be looking for certainly a top 10 finish, maybe top 8. It'll be interesting to see how they get on. Obviously, there's still time in the window. There's still 6 weeks or so left of the transfer window. So anything can happen. I know that obviously they missed out on Hugo Ekitike. So we know they're looking to bolster their forward line. They're also looking for, somebody down the right-hand side as well, a right winger. And, they are strengthening in the right areas. They've brought in Matt Targett, somebody who's already performed for the club. Again, smart piece of business. I think we'll see what happens in the opening half of the season. Remember, there was the January transfer window. Last year they spent just south of £100 million in January. So if Eddie feels that they need to push on a little bit more, there's I'm sure that they'll splash the cash if they need to in the right areas in January.
Okay. OK, we're going to move on to the Daily Express. I've got some quotes here from Timo Werner, who has admitted that he's assessing his position at Chelsea. He's got one eye on the World Cup, really, isn't he?
Yeah, the Germany forward has said that he wants to be playing more in order to boost his chances of getting in to that squad. Do you expect him to stay or go?
Yeah, this is an interesting one, really. Look, you know, anybody having watched Timo Werner at RB Leipzig and then watching him at Chelsea know that this completely different striker. He looks like he's lost, you know, a little bit of his edge. He looks like he's lost a little bit of his, you know, his confidence in front of goal. But if he does go, and you know, I can only see him really going back to Germany. And maybe on a loan deal just to, you know, to enhance his chance of playing in the World Cup. But for me, you know, where does that leave Chelsea? I think he should stay. I think there's an opportunity for him to really push on this season. Again, wipe the slate clean and have a real good run at it. Romelu Lukaku's not there now, and Chelsea don't really have an out-and-out striker. You know, they brought in Raheem Sterling, fantastic. But, you know, when you take away Lukaku's goals, yes, he didn't have the most prolific season. But when you look at Mason Mount, 12 goals last season. Kai Havertz, 13 goals last season. You look at, you know, I know that Timo Werner had, you know, he's only scored 11 himself, but that's 36 goals or so between the three players. I just hope he can kick on next season because there is a goal scorer in him. There is. And, you know, like I say, anybody who's watched him at Leipzig will know that, you know, he knows where the net is. I think he just needs to find that confidence again. And, you know, why not at Chelsea?
Well, you mentioned that Lukaku's gone, Sterling has come in now, but do you think Chelsea have got enough firepower to compete this season?
You see, that's a struggle, I think, Bella, with that, because, you know, unless they're going to take an you know, approach that Man City have had where you may not play with an out-and-out number 9 or an out-and-out striker, you know, there has to be plenty of goals across that front line. I'm not sure Chelsea have enough. Again, if you, let's say, for example, Werner does go on loan or Werner does leave and you take out Werner and you take out Lukaku, does Havertz, does Mount, do they have enough to fire you into a title challenge, to fire you to the latter stages of the Champions League? I'm not sure they do. Raheem Sterling, yes, will fill the void, and I'm sure he would chip in with you know, a few goals of his own, but I'm not convinced that Chelsea will have enough if they don't either keep Werner or replace Werner with an out-and-out striker. I think Chelsea needs some more firepower.
Right, Lee, you've got one final very quick question here. We're asking the viewers who they would want back at their club, players who are currently playing right now. I couldn't work out whether you were a Leicester fan or Newcastle fan, actually, before we started, but who would you take back at whichever club that is?
This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this one for my little brother. Pete is a mad Newcastle fan. If I was to take any player back at Newcastle, I mean, if you let me go back a few years, I'm going to say Ginola, David Ginola, player, absolute player. He would probably say Shearer, but I'm going to go for David. He was incredible. So yeah.